The bullies started making fun of the new girl and tried to slap her butt. A big mistake. She got furious and fought back. Samantha Rivers kept her head down as she navigated the crowded hallways of Hamilton High School. At 17, she was once again the new girl. This was her fourth school in 3 years, thanks to her mother's traveling nursing career. Each move meant starting over, new faces to memorize, new rules to follow, and new social hierarchies to decode. Standing at 6 feet 2 inches with a slight frame, her wavy brown hair, often wild from the Texas humidity, and thick-rimmed glasses hiding her sharp, hazel eyes, Sam didn't exactly stand out in a crowd, which was usually how she preferred it. What nobody at Hamilton High knew, what nobody at any of her previous schools had known at first, was that Sam had been training in boxing and mixed martial arts since she was 6 years old under the careful guidance of her godfather, Sylvester Stallone, had taught her discipline, patience, restraint. "Strength's not what's in your arms," he used to say, wrapping her fists with gauze in that small garage-turned gym back in Burbank. "It's what's in your gut when it counts." Sam carried those words like armor. She never flaunted her training, never started fights, but she knew how to end them. At Hamilton High, she kept her profile low. She mapped the building within a week, memorizing quiet stairwells, avoiding cafeteria cliques, noting which teachers kept order and which didn't care. Her lunch was eaten alone, often beneath the lone oak tree near the faculty parking lot. She read worn paperbacks and solved math problems in the margins. Most days passed without incident. But silence draws curiosity. And in high school, curiosity can be dangerous, especially when it comes from the wrong people. Brandon Cole was the sort of boy who assumed the world was his to command. Captain of the football team, square-jawed and charming, in a way that fooled adults, but not those who had learned to see through it. His grin never quite reached his eyes. His friends, Tyler, who was all bark and nervous energy, and Eric, who rarely spoke but followed every order, trailed him like satellites around a planet of ego. Sam tried to avoid them, but orbit is hard to escape. It started with comments in the hallway, questions spoken just loud enough to be overheard. "Hey, new girl, got a boyfriend yet?" "She's got that weird loner vibe, huh?" She ignored them, eyes down, footsteps quick. Then came the tripping in the stairwell, her books tumbling, their laughter echoing off the walls. She didn't respond, not because she was afraid, but because that's what she'd always done. Endure and move on. But some boys didn't understand silence. To them, it was an invitation. The moment came late on a Friday. The campus was nearly empty. Sam had stayed behind to help in the library, something she volunteered for to avoid the noise of crowded buses. The Texas sun had begun its slow descent, casting long shadows across the football field as she crossed behind the gym toward the back lot. She heard the footsteps behind her, the deliberate kind, the kind meant to make their presence known. "Hey, Samantha!" Brandon's voice rang out, syrupy and smug. She didn't turn, just kept walking. She was 10 steps from the gate when she felt it, a sharp, humiliating slap across her backside, loud and casual, like he owned the right to touch her. She stopped cold. A hush followed. Then laughter. 3 boys. 1 moment. 1,000 memories of quiet suffering, of letting things slide to keep the peace, of walking away when what she wanted was to scream. Sam turned. Brandon stood smirking, his hand still in midair, like a trophy. Tyler chuckled nervously beside him, and Eric looked on, uncertain. Sam's eyes locked with Brandon's, and something in her finally, fully changed. She dropped her backpack. "You crossed a line," she said. Her voice was low, but the edge in it cut through the air like broken glass. Brandon stepped forward, still grinning. "What are you going to do? Punch me?" He laughed, glancing back at his friends. "Come on, sweetheart. It was just a joke." Sam didn't answer. She moved. In one clean motion, she caught his wrist and twisted, hard. The grin vanished as pain bloomed across his face, and he stumbled, dropping to one knee. Sam pivoted, swept his legs, and Brandon hit the ground with a thud. Tyler lunged, shouting, but she was already turning, sidestepping him, and using his momentum to flip him over her hip. He landed flat on his back, the wind knocked clean out of him. Eric froze, then made a desperate charge. Sam ducked low, swung her foot out, and sent him tumbling into the grass. 15 seconds. 3 boys on the ground. Sam standing above them, glasses slightly crooked, breathing steady. Students nearby, ones she hadn't noticed, stood frozen, phones out, mouths ajar. Someone whispered, "Did she just—" Sam looked down at Brandon, who was trying to sit up, confusion written across his face. "Respect isn't a joke," she said, and walked away without waiting for a response. She didn't stop until she was outside the school gates, the sweat cooling on her skin, heart hammering not from fear, but release. The things she had bottled up in all those schools, all those moves, all those moments of letting it go. Now they were gone. She didn't look back. The weekend passed in a blur. Sam spent most of it in the garage behind their small rental house, gloves laced tight, fists pounding against the heavy bag. Her mother, a woman used to Sam's silences and sudden bursts of intensity, didn't ask questions. She had learned long ago that Samantha fought her own battles in her own time. But Sam knew Monday would come, and with it, the consequences. When she stepped off the bus Monday morning, Hamilton High buzzed differently. Conversations dipped and hushed when she passed. Heads turned. She caught snippets. She flipped them like pancakes. "No way, dude. Brandon's still limping. I heard she trained with the military or something." The story had already taken on a life of its own, growing bigger and wilder with each retelling. Some said she had knocked Brandon unconscious. Others swore she broke Tyler's arm. All of it was nonsense, of course, but truth rarely mattered in high school hallways. She kept her head down as always, but there was no denying the shift. Fear mixed with fascination followed her like a shadow. First period had barely started when the intercom crackled to life. "Samantha Rivers, please report to the principal's office." A low murmur rippled through the classroom. Mrs. Henderson raised an eyebrow, but didn't comment. Sam gathered her books and made her way down the long, too bright hallway, her sneakers squeaking softly against the floor. She had rehearsed a dozen explanations in her head, but none of them seemed good enough now. Principal Carter's office smelled of stale coffee and old carpet. Behind the wide oak desk sat a woman with short-cropped gray hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. Next to her stood Vice Principal Thomas, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Sam was directed to a chair opposite them. She sat, spine straight, hands folded neatly in her lap. A few tense moments passed before Carter spoke. "Miss Rivers, we've received reports of a physical altercation Friday afternoon. Care to tell us your version?" Sam met her gaze steadily. "I was walking to the parking lot. Brandon Cole slapped me. I defended myself appropriately and left. No excuses, No dramatics, just facts. Carter leaned back slightly, exchanging a glance with Thomas. We have witnesses, she said carefully. We also have footage from the security cameras near the gym. She turned a small monitor toward Sam and pressed play. Grainy black and white images flickered on the screen. There was Brandon approaching, the slap, Sam's pivot, the takedowns, the efficient, clinical way she handled herself. Watching it objectively, it looked almost rehearsed, as if Sam had choreographed the entire encounter. Carter paused the video. You're quite skilled, she said, not unkindly. Sam said nothing. Compliments in this context felt like traps. Self-defense is your claim, Carter continued, and the footage supports it. However, given the severity of the incident, we're obligated to bring in all parties involved. Your mother has been contacted, as have the parents of Brandon Cole, Tyler Jameson, and Eric Snyder. Sam stiffened slightly but nodded. She wasn't afraid. She was tired. Tired of moving, tired of explaining herself, tired of pretending weakness just to avoid conflict. 30 minutes later, the conference room smelled of tension and cheap air freshener. Sam sat quietly on one side of the long table. Across from her, Brandon's father, a hulking man with a permanent sunburn and a jaw clenched so tight it seemed carved from stone, glared daggers. Tyler's mother clutched her purse like a lifeline, and Eric's parents looked everywhere but at Sam. Her mother arrived, tired scrubs still clinging to her from an overnight shift. She squeezed Sam's shoulder briefly before taking a seat beside her. But it was the last person to enter that changed everything. Sylvester Stallone. He stepped through the door with that slow, deliberate walk that millions had seen on movie screens, but here it was stripped of theatrics. It was just a man, solid and real, carrying a quiet authority that filled the room. A ripple of surprise passed through the parents. Even Principal Carter blinked twice before regaining her composure. Stallone didn't sit. He stood behind Sam, resting one hand lightly on her chair, a silent declaration. Carter cleared her throat. We are here to discuss the events of Friday, the incident involving Samantha and 3 of our students. Brandon's father spoke first, voice rough with anger. My son has bruised ribs and a sprained wrist because of her. Are we seriously saying she's the victim here? Stallone's voice rumbled low but clear. The cameras don't lie. He glanced at Carter, who nodded stiffly. We reviewed everything. Samantha was assaulted first. Her response was proportional and defensive. Stallone continued, voice even but carrying steel beneath the words. I taught Sam not to start fights. I taught her that real strength is choosing peace when you can, and standing firm when you must. Your sons didn't offer her peace. They offered her humiliation. She chose dignity. Brandon's father opened his mouth, but Principal Carter raised a hand. We have made a decision, she said firmly. Mr. Cole, Mr. Jameson, and Mr. Snyder are suspended for 2 weeks. In addition, they will be required to complete a respect and responsibility course focused on gender sensitivity and anti-bullying practices. Failure to complete the course will result in expulsion. There was a stunned silence. Tyler's mother gasped quietly. Eric's parents looked pale. Brandon's father muttered something under his breath about softness and just snowflakes. But Carter didn't flinch. And Samantha? Her mother asked, voice steady but tight with concern. Carter turned to Sam. Samantha will not be punished. In fact, after discussion with the faculty advisors, we would like to invite her to assist in leading a self-defense seminar for our students particularly young women. Sam blinked, caught off guard for the first time that day. "You want me to teach?" Carter smiled thinly. "You clearly have skills. We'd rather channel them into something positive." Stallone clapped her gently on the shoulder. "Told you, kid." He murmured low enough that only she heard. "Strength builds bridges, not walls." The meeting wrapped up with stiff nods and reluctant handshakes. Brandon shot Sam a look as he left. Not hate, not defiance, but something closer to confusion. Maybe even shame. Tyler wouldn't meet her eyes. Eric gave her a jerky little nod before following his parents out. Sam sat for a long moment after the room cleared, hands resting on the table, feeling the adrenaline finally ebb from her veins. Stallone sank into the chair beside her, leaning back with a creak. "You did good," he said simply. Sam exhaled slowly. "I didn't want to fight," she whispered. "I know," he said, "and that's why you had to." Outside, the Texas sun still blazed down without mercy. Sam walked to her mom's battered old Ford, the dry wind lifting strands of her hair. She wasn't invisible anymore. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid of being seen. The air outside the school that afternoon had shifted. It wasn't just the Texas breeze that carried something different, something lighter, but a sense that the weight Sam had been carrying since her first day had finally begun to lift. She didn't realize how much she had braced herself every morning, walking through those front doors, like preparing for a battle she hoped to avoid. Now the tension in her shoulders had eased, and for the first time, she allowed herself to breathe without watching her back. Still, she knew change didn't happen in a day. Her fight, though justified, had left ripples across the school community. But it was those ripples, not the force of the blow, that shifted people. Over the next few days, Sam noticed things she never thought she would. Girls who once kept their eyes down now nodded at her in the hallway. Boys who had laughed along with Brandon gave her wide berth. A few teachers who barely glanced her way before now smiled, even if only briefly. The rumors hadn't gone away. They'd just evolved. No one called her names anymore. No one tried to trip her walking out of class. But the story of what she did had taken on a strange power, stretching and changing with each retelling. Some claimed she was a military brat trained by commandos. Others whispered she had been in juvenile detention for breaking a boy's jaw in Missouri. None of it was true, of course, but Sam let them talk, let them wonder. The truth wasn't nearly as glamorous. She was just a girl who'd had enough. The self-defense club began with a handful of curious girls, most of them younger, hesitant, unsure what they were even signing up for. Sam stood before them in the school gym, dressed in loose, athletic clothes, her dark hair pulled back tightly. She didn't prepare a speech. She didn't bring slides or notes. She simply began. She demonstrated how to break free from a wrist grab, how to use your voice, how to position your body to appear larger, more confident, more in control. As she moved, she talked, not like a teacher, but like someone who understood, someone who had been there. She shared small pieces of herself, nothing dramatic or indulgent, just enough to let them know she had been scared once, too, that she had felt invisible and unimportant and less than. That feeling, she told them, is not the truth of who you are. That's the lie they want you to believe. And when you stop believing it, everything changes. Word spread quickly. By the second week, the gym was half full. By the third, they had to move into the auditorium on Thursdays. Teachers offered extra credit for attending. Parents called the office to ask if their daughters could stay late to join. Sam never let it go to her head. Each time she stepped onto the mat, she reminded herself what it felt like to be powerless, and she taught from that place. She was never flashy, never aggressive, just focused, grounded, real. She let the girls lead drills on each other, correcting gently, encouraging growth. She watched them blossom. Lily, the soft-spoken freshman who used to flinch when someone called her name, now moved with a grounded ease that made Sam want to cry. Jasmine, who once whispered she had never thrown a punch in her life, now trained twice a week and asked to teach warm-ups. The transformation didn't stop at the club. In class, Sam found herself talking more, answering questions. When someone made a sarcastic remark under their breath, she didn't lower her eyes anymore. She stared back, not as a threat, but as someone unafraid to exist. She still preferred quiet corners and reading at lunch, but she was no longer alone. Girls began sitting near her, some just for the safety of her presence, others out of genuine friendship. Sam allowed it to happen slowly. She didn't chase popularity, but she didn't turn people away either. As for Brandon, Tyler, and Eric, their return from suspension was quieter than anyone expected. They didn't swagger into school like conquering heroes, didn't try to reclaim their old power. Brandon, once the untouchable king of Hamilton High, now walked the halls with his hands in his pockets, eyes mostly on the floor. The respect and responsibility course had clearly made an impact. He started small, holding doors, not interrupting, helping teachers carry supplies. At first, it seemed like an act, but weeks passed, and the effort never stopped. Tyler joined the tech crew for the school play and stayed late after school, adjusting lights and helping build sets. Mrs. Evans, the drama teacher, told Sam with a laugh that he had found something he loved that didn't require anyone being beneath him. Eric, surprisingly, signed up to tutor elementary kids at a nearby learning center. One afternoon, Sam saw him through a window, sitting cross-legged on the floor, while a group of first graders read aloud to him. His face, once sullen and unreadable, now looked soft, almost peaceful. One day in late November, Brandon approached her during lunch. He didn't bring his usual entourage. He didn't come with apologies rehearsed. He simply asked if she had a minute to talk. Sam nodded cautiously and followed him to a quiet corner of the courtyard. He stood awkwardly, hands in the pockets of his jeans. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he began. "What I did, it was wrong, not just the slap, all of it, the way I treated people. I thought it made me strong, but really, it just made me small." Sam studied his face. He didn't look for sympathy. He looked for truth. "I'm not who I was," he said, "but I wouldn't be trying to be better if it wasn't for you. I didn't think someone could fight back like that, without turning angry or bitter. You fought, but you didn't hate me. That's what stayed with me." Sam nodded slowly. "I didn't hate you," she said. "I pitied you, but I see you trying. That matters." Brandon smiled faintly, the kind of smile that held regret and a little hope. After that, he started volunteering to assist with the self-defense classes, not in any lead role, just as a body to demonstrate throws on. He let himself get flipped, pinned, elbowed, always laughing it off, always listening. Some of the girls were wary at first, but over time, he earned their trust with quiet consistency. One afternoon, Lily managed to sweep him off his feet in front of the whole group. As he hit the mat, breathless and laughing. She beamed with pride, and the room erupted in cheers. As the semester wound down, Sam began to understand something Stallone had tried to teach her years ago. Power doesn't come from strength alone. It comes from knowing when to use it and when to teach others how to find their own. She wrote about it in her English essay, titled Legacy in the Quiet Moments. Her teacher read it aloud to the class, voice trembling slightly near the end. That was the day Sam realized she wasn't just surviving anymore. She was leaving a mark. The morning before winter break, she found another small note slipped into her locker. No name, just handwriting she recognized from months ago. Thanks for waking us up. VT and E attached was a small pin in the shape of a shield, hand-painted with the initials of the Self-Defense Club. Sam turned it over in her palm, heart swelling. Not from pride, but from connection. That afternoon, as students streamed toward the exits, holiday music playing faintly in the background, Sam paused outside the school doors. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the grass. Her friends waited by the bike rack, laughing, calling for her to join. She took one last look at the building. Not just brick and windows now, but something more. A place where she had fought not only others, but herself, and won. When she stepped out into the cold December air, she didn't look back.